Hey, what's up guys? David here from Dignited. Today I want to dive into the Chromebook or ChromeOS terminal applications. Alright, so Windows has CMD or PowerShell. macOS has a terminal application. Linux, of course, has a full-on terminal application. So what about Chromebooks? What about ChromeOS? Alright, let's get in and I show you exactly what ChromeOS has. That is specifically for power users. All right. Okay. So if you want to have a command line experience on ChromeOS or on your Chromebook, there are basically two options that you can use. One is Crosh or Chrome Shell. Okay, so this is a built-in command line interface that comes with ChromeOS. This was actually the first command line experience that shipped with ChromeOS or Chromebooks. All right, and the way that you can access it is by simply pressing Ctrl-Alt-T. So let's do that. Ctrl-Alt-T. Okay. Yes, let me pull this on my screen so you can see it. And it says, welcome to Crosh, the ChromeOS developer shell. All right. So if you make any mistake, just don't panic. This is a command line experience. It provides access to a limited set of commands for diagnostics, debugging, and basic system information. So this is something that you can use to check network connectivity with commands like ping. So if you just want to test, for example, if your internet is on, we can do a ping to Google because, of course, Google does not go down. All right, then you have this ping command that just keeps on running, and if you want to stop it, then you're going to press Ctrl-C. Okay, so that terminates the command. And then, of course, you can also use this to connect to remote servers using SSH. So you can say SSH to your username at a specific whatever server, for example, right? Yes, so here it says unknown command SSH, but that is something that is also actually available. Then you can also just query some system information, like say, for example, CPU info here, or let's say mem info. Okay, so some of the commands are not working. I don't know why, but yeah, we can see mem info at least provides us with your system information here. We have some, it shows us how much free RAM that you have. It shows some buffers and so forth, right? So this is technical information that you can also get by just simply going to diagnosis or diagnostics. You know, I showed this some time back. Okay, so this is actually just querying this information here. Yeah. So how about free? Yes, so this shows us exactly how much RAM that you have in the system. So if you want to get more commands that are supported on Crosh, that just type in help here, and then you're able to see some of the commands. So we did a ping test here, and my favorite here is actually top, which tells us exactly what resources are running on your Chromebook and how much each resource is consuming. It shows us here CPU usage, resource, which is also more like RAM, and then the processes that are actually consuming that information. So top is a very popular terminal application or command that you can actually use. So Crosh is extremely limited here. There are very, very few things that you can do with it. Try to play with it here, but it's really, really limited. So if you want some serious more power, right, then you're going to have to use Crostini. Okay, yes. So what is the key difference between Crosh and Crostini? So Crosh is a built-in Chrome OS tool, right? So this comes pre-built with every Chromebook, whereas Crostini provides full Linux environment and you'll have to enable it. It's not enabled by default. Okay. Yeah, so essentially Crostini is the codename for a project that brings Linux application support to Chrome OS. It allows Chromebook users to run Linux applications alongside their regular Chrome OS application. All right, so you can run things like VLC. I actually demoed how you can run Windows applications on your Chromebook using Wine through the Linux development environment. I'll put a link to that video. Okay, so it is really Crostini is really helpful for developers who need Linux tools for coding. You can also install VS Code, for example, on it, and I did a video on how to install VS Code on your Chromebook. I'll put a link to it. Again, this is through the Linux development environment. And so how does it really work? So Crostini uses virtual machines or VMs to create a Linux environment within ChromeOS. So this environment is sandboxed, meaning it's isolated from the rest of the ChromeOS system, and this enhances security. Yes. So through Crostini, you have full Linux command line tools, you have code editors, and even graphical Linux applications that actually demoed to you in a previous video. Right. So let me show you how you can get started with Crostini, which actually already did. But essentially, what you want to do is to enable the Linux development environment. And how you do that is you're going to have to go to settings here. Okay. And then you have to come to about Chrome OS. And then you have to scroll down here. Under developers, you can see here it says Linux development environment, and it tells us run developer tools, IDEs, and editors. So I already enabled this, but if you didn't have it, then you'll have an option where you can actually enable this, right? So once you enable it, then you have enabled the Linux development environment or Crostini. And once that is done, then you should be able to see a terminal application here. You see this terminal application down here in the dock, or you can actually just search it also and just say terminal. Let me bring it right here. Okay. Yes. Just come to the everything button here and just type in terminal. It should be able to bring it up. Yeah. So by default, it installs Penguin, which is a Linux virtual machine based on Debian. Debian is like the mothership of Linux operating systems, right? That is what Ubuntu is based on, Linux Mint, and so forth. Okay. So once you have it here, tap on Penguin right here, and now this is starting our virtual machine on Chrome OS. So this is going to give us the full terminal experience on Chrome OS. So it takes a little bit of time to boot up, but once it has done that, then now you have it here, right? So we can now just run a few familiar Linux commands. I'm going to show you a couple of things. So you can see here, it says Linux Penguin 6.6.67, and it gives us the kernel and so forth, right? Yes, this is the kernel that's running on, the Linux kernel that it's running on. So if you want to learn some Linux Kung Fu, right, a few basic commands just to be good enough and to be dangerous. I'm going to walk you through some basic commands that you need to know. Well, let's start with the one that I already demoed in Crosh, which is the ping. Just test your network connectivity. This is basic troubleshooting. If you want to just see if the internet is on, you can just ping Google, because again, Google doesn't go offline. Okay, or you can just ping an IP. So I prefer 8.8.8. This is Google's DNS, which also never goes down. So if you receive this kind of response, it automatically means that the internet is on. Okay, yeah. So you can now clear the terminal by typing in clear. And this clears the previous commands that you had typed in. Okay, now, the basic command in Linux that everybody should know is to list, is navigation. Two commands actually for navigation. List directories and then change directory. And then know where you currently are, the current working directory. So, current working directory is pwd. And it shows me I'm at /home/okdev. That is where I am. But what's here? You'll have to use ls, list directory contents. There is nothing here. Okay? Yes. Then you also want to make a directory. Because there's nothing here, we can as well just make a directory, okay, with mkdir, and we can just say test maybe. And now when I ls or list, I should be able to see test right here, okay. How about creating a file in this directory? You can use touch. So we can touch and type in a test file. What should we call it? Here, first file.txt. There you go. So when I ls, I should be able to see that file there. So how can I add contents to this file? Again, this is full-on terminal experience, right? I'm not using a GUI or anything. I just want to show you exactly how you can use a terminal to do pretty much what normal people do using a GUI. So I'm going to now edit this terminal here. I mean, this test file using vim or vi. Hopefully it's installed. Yes, it is. Okay, so vi, the test file, gets me to this, right? Opens the file. So I'm going to type I for insert on my keyboard to get, typing in stuff, content on this file. Otherwise, if you started typing in right now, you can see there's nothing. So I have to type I, and you'll see insert down here, okay, to now indicate that you're ready to type in some content on this file. Yeah, now when you're done typing in this content here, you're going to press escape to get out of the insert mode, okay. So it disappears when I press escape on my keyboard, and now you're going to press shift the columns, okay, to get that full column icon down here, and then you type in W for save and Q for exit to get out of this. Right? So how do I see the contents of the file? Okay, I'm going to type in cat. Cat, like a cat, dog, and whatever, but this is cat, C-A-T, and then first file.txt. This shows me the contents of the file. So you can see I'm not using a text editor or anything to do this. I'm using terminal application to actually move around, navigate, and create files, okay? Otherwise, I'll have to use a terminal application here. The built-in one is called txt. It's called text actually, to be able to do this, okay? But since this video is about the terminal, then we have to swallow the pill as is. Yeah. So again, ls to see what we have, and you can see I have a file and a directory. How do I know it's a file and a directory? Then I'll have to use ls again, and here it gives me a couple of information here. All right, so you can see with a file it just starts with a dash rw, okay, it's just a dash. But for a directory it starts with a d right here. That means that it is a directory. So test here is a directory. Okay, so how do I rename the file or the directory? Okay, so for example, this test directory here, how can I rename it? Usually in the GUI, you're going to press F2, or on Mac, you're going to just press enter, and then you can rename the directory. But then how do you do it here in the terminal? You're going to use the move command, okay? That is MV. Then we have test, that is the original name. Then I'm going to type in the name that I want to rename it to. And in this case, I just want to rename it to test-dir to indicate that it's a directory. There you go. So when I ls now, I have test-dir to indicate that it's a directory. I've renamed it using move. Move does not move, no. It renames a file or directory in Linux terminal. This was confusing to me at first, but yeah, apparently that's how it is. Now, how do we move or how do we change to this directory? How do we access it? In the Google, you'll have to double click on a directory to move into it. But in the terminal, you're going to have to cd or change directory. So cd to test-dir. Okay. Or by the way, quick tip, you can always use tab to autocomplete something, you know. You don't have to type the whole thing every other time. So there you go. We are now in the test directory, and if I did pwd right here, it now shows me the full path to this directory here. All right. Yeah, pretty awesome. So how do I go back to where I was? Once again, navigation. I'm going to have to use cd again, change directory, but this time I'm going to have to put 2 dots, which means take me back 1 directory up. Yeah, there you go. And where am I? I've come back to where we were. Yes, so this is how you move around files and directories in the Linux terminal. Now, how do we remove a directory, or how do we delete files and directories? That's very interesting. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to copy or backup a file so that we can reuse it. Okay. And how do you copy? We're going to use cp. That is short for copy. So let's copy first file, and now we're going to copy it to second, right? Second file, like that, .txt. And now I should be able to see 2 files here, the first one and the second one. Of course, they both have exactly the same content. We can test that using our cat. This is second, exactly has the same content right here. So I'm going to now remove the first file, okay? And in this case, I'm going to have to use the command rm. So rm, and then we type in the name of the file that we're going to remove. And in this case, I think we're going to remove the second file here. So it's been removed. Now, you have to tread very carefully in the terminal, because once you do something like this, it's basically irreversible. Okay, you can't undo it. So with more power comes more responsibility. And how about removing a directory? Okay, so let's copy a directory again. Let's copy a directory. Let's replicate test directory. Now, yeah, let's call it test directory 2 here. Yes. Now, yes, I needed you to see this error here, and it says that copy -ir not specified, omitting directory. So when you're copying files, okay, you don't need to use the -r argument. But when you're copying directories, you're gonna have to use -r argument. Why? -r means recursive. It says copy recursively because a directory has other files and directories, which have other files and directories, which have other files and directories. So you have to specify this argument -r, which means recursive, when you're copying directories. So we're going to have to do that again. So copy -r this time. We're going to specify that. Okay. And now test directory -2, like that. So when we ls, we should be able to see our test directory 2 right here. I think you can see that. So again, just remember, when you're copying files, and I think we did that before, we didn't specify the -r option. Where is the copy? It's right here. You can see it here. But when you're copying directories or folders, you're gonna have to specify -r, which once again, I say stands for recursive. Yeah, that's something pretty interesting. Now, how about deleting a directory? Yes, you're going to have to use rm, but this time you're going to add dir, okay, to indicate directory. So remove directory, rm dir. This is going to specifically remove only empty directories. If a directory has some content in it, it's going to fail, and we're going to test that. Okay, yes, so we're going to have, let's do that by actually putting some content in test directory 2. So I'm going to copy this file and second file here, .txt, and I'm going to copy second file and put it in test directory 2 here. Okay, so when we ls test directory 2, we should be able to see that it has a file here, which is second file.txt. So I'm going to demo to you first using rm-ir to show you that this only works to remove an empty directory, and it's actually a very safe command if you want to be sure that you're deleting a directory that is empty. So we're going to attempt deleting directory 2, which has some content or file, and see if it's going to work. It's going to fail. Okay, just to show you that it only works if you're deleting empty directories or folders. And there you go. So it says fail to remove test-dir-2, this directory. Why? Because the directory is not empty. All right, and now I'm going to show you how you delete empty directories. I'm going to show you how you delete directories that are not empty. But for now, let's delete the directory which is empty, which is the first one. So let's see if it has anything. Doesn't have anything. So now I can safely use rm-dir on this directory, test directory, because it's empty, right? And there you go, it has actually removed it. ls, it's not there. So for the second directory, which has some content, you're going to have to specify the R option. So remove, but with -r. And I think you can see a pattern here, right? That you have to put -r when it comes to directories, which once again indicates recursive, because directories have files and folders which have files and folders. So let's do that. There you go. So now it has removed it. Okay, and then of course you can do rm for just about. Okay, and then of course you can do basic diagnosis. I think I did the ping test. You can do a trace route test. You can do top here, which shows you system resources. What processes are chewing up your resources. This is a bit like Task Manager on Windows. Then you can see here the fields. The PID is the process ID here. User is the user of that process, and I can't really go through all these because top is actually a video on its own, right? You can do uptime just to show you how long the Chromebook has been up without rebooting, and yeah, for my case, it just shows me that it has been up for 16 minutes. Okay. Then you can use free to show you how much RAM is used, how much RAM is installed, and so forth. So you can see here I have 2.8 roughly. Okay, if I specify with -mt to indicate megabytes, then we have you can see what's happening here. Okay, we have about 2.7 gigs installed, but it's 4 GB. I don't know why it's showing this. Okay, so the number of other Linux commands that you can use just to query your system. How about hostname ctl? This shows us the operating system and the machine, okay, that the Linux is installed in, and in this case it gives us the hostname, it gives us the chassis. This is a container, this is a Linux container. Okay, gives us the virtualization. This is LXC, the operating system, as I indicated earlier. This is Debian, actually, the kernel, Linux kernel, and the architecture. This is x86, so forth. Yeah, so this is running on a virtualized environment, and that's why we're having that information. So what do you guys want to know? This is basic introductory video to the Linux command line interface using Crosh, which I demoed earlier. Very, very limited in terms of what you can do apart from basic network diagnosis and system information, versus Crostini or the Linux development environment, which gives you fully blown Linux environment here. So in earlier videos, I actually demoed how you can install Linux applications, full desktop applications like VS Code on this thing. You can install LibreOffice, which is like MS Office, but for Linux through Linux terminal. Yeah, and actually you can use sudo apt-get. Okay, let's first update, just to update packages, and then sudo apt-get install. This is how you install applications on Linux. So let's try VLC and see what we have. And there you go. So I'm not going to install VLC here, but if you want to do that, then you're going to have to install it via apt-get install. It's right here. Okay. So this has been our video on how to explore and use the Linux terminal on Chromebook. Okay. Yes. Now, before I sign out, I want to introduce to you an application or a website that I've been developing. Okay. This is a Chromebook Finder. This website here enables you find the best and the perfect Chromebook for you. So whether you're a student or you're a gamer or you're a business owner, or you're looking for a budget Chromebook, you're looking for a Chromebook for education, for your school, this website here enables you to browse by category and learn on the Chromebook that you need or the Chromebook that you can afford. It's all right here. This is actually recently launched, and just go to chromebookfinder.com and you'll be able to see all the Chromebooks. This is continuously updated, but the collection and the database is really, really vast, because we have Chromebooks by Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, Lenovo, Samsung right here. Yes, you can browse by price range, and 300 to 500, and then 500. You can browse by categories that I mentioned earlier. You can browse by brand. You can even compare different models right here. Okay. Yeah, you can just select a model and compare side-by-side specifications. And then, most importantly, you can compare prices across different retailers, right? So for now, we have Amazon, Best Buy, and Walmart right here currently supported. And you can see who has the best deal, and you're able to shop from that retailer. This information is actually updated, and I had to spend over 100 man-hours to make this website just for you guys, so that you don't have to spend 100 man-hours just to find the perfect Chromebook for yourself. All right, so if I really appreciate if you visit it and give me some feedback, because this project, this website is continuously in development. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.